Besides the crucial special election in Wisconsin, where Republicans ultimately lost, something equally significant and interesting happened yesterday that I didn't have time to discuss. That event was Elon Musk, the shadow president, appearing on Fox News for an interview where he was questioned about his corrupt conflicts of interest. You could see him visibly uncomfortable and struggling to answer. The Fox News host grilling him was none other than Jessica Tarlov, known for being the voice of reason at Fox. This is something we really need to talk about. Before we dive in, if you enjoy this video and want to support the channel, be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert buttons before you leave. Now, as you know, we're big fans of Jessica Tarlov here. She arguably has one of the hardest jobs in mainstream media. She goes on The Five, standing alone against 4 other panelists, some of the most relentless voices on Fox News, but she's never outmatched. I was a bit surprised when I first saw some of these clips circulating, as I hadn't seen Jessica's segment. At first I thought, did they schedule it for a day when she wouldn't be on The Five? But no, she was there, and she got to ask Elon Musk a crucial question about his conflicts of interest. It was shocking that they even allowed her to ask him such a direct question, but here it is. Jessica Tarlov holding Elon Musk accountable for his corrupt dealings and questioning how he can justify them to the American public.
I wanted to talk to you about what Doge has been doing. So you've been making cuts to a lot of the agencies that have open investigations and regulatory battles with your companies. At the same time, you continue to get billions in government contracts. Tesla gets billions in subsidies. How do you explain that to the American people?
Let's pause right there. Bravo once again. Seriously, kudos to Jessica. I'm honestly surprised they even allowed these two to be in the same room together, and what an excellent question to ask. Given the circumstances, I'm sure there was a lot of pressure for a more softball question. When you're outnumbered not just by your co-hosts, but by the audience, who likely leans in the opposite direction, the stakes are high. Jess frequently faces criticism from viewers when she challenges right-wing talking points, and now she's up against one of the most powerful figures on the planet, the so-called shadow president, who's known for being both corrupt and vindictive. Despite all that pressure, Jessica asked that question on live air. So now let's take a look at how Elon Musk responded.
Well, everything that Doge does is an open book. So I think the most transparent the most transparent organization in government ever. Every single Doge action is listed on the Doge.gov website. It's also listed on the X handle. So if anyone has a concern about any one of those actions, they can bring that up, they can raise that. And I do want to say, like, sometimes we make a mistake. Nobody bats 1,000. We will at times make a mistake, but we'll act very quickly to correct it. I am under such an extreme spotlight, so much scrutiny, that it's literally impossible for me to get away with anything nefarious, and obviously nor do I wish to. So this is a case where we have radical transparency. We're actually willing to admit that we do make mistakes. Often people are not willing to admit they make mistakes, but we are. But we want to emphasize we fix them quickly, and we're trying to do the right thing for the American taxpayer, for the American people. And I think history will be the judge that what we've done here and what we're doing is a very good thing for the strength and future of America.
Yeah, you can tell Jess was not impressed by the nature of his answer, nor should he be, because he was full of, and I'll point out that she was not given a chance to ask a follow-up question, because Janine Perrault cut in to pass the proverbial torch, so that's the closest Elon Musk will ever get to a fully justified grilling ever again. Kudos to Jess. Make sure, by the way, that you go to her Raging Moderates. It's on Scott Galloway's YouTube channel, and I think they have an Apple feed as well. Be sure to like and subscribe to that. It's great work. But yeah, that's awesome. And again, you can just see that he didn't even really answer the question. How do you explain it to the American people? Oh, it's just not happening. Well, no, it is. Again, he didn't dispute. He didn't say, well, no, that's not true. We didn't cut any agencies or departments that were investigating me or probing my business interests. He was just like, I'm so big, I'm so popular that I can't get away with anything. Except, as we've discussed in previous videos, there has been a lot of credible reporting about Musk's conflict of interests and his corruption. And he does seem to be getting away with it, and that these things are occurring regardless of the controversy and the high profile that he generates. This idea that sunlight's the best is, in fact, just public exposure, will keep him from doing terrible things that assumes that Musk is susceptible to shame. But like even when he says, nobody bats a thousand. We make mistakes. Yes, you do all the time. You make far more mistakes than you have successes. Your mistake to success ratio is heavily lopsided towards mistake, but you tend to double down on them, like when people call you out, you continue to do and say the dumbest, most dishonest. I mean, how often did he regurgitate that lie about $50 million worth of condoms sent to Hamas? It was debunked to hell and back, and he continued to regurgitate it, retweet it, talk about it on True Social and in speeches and other places. He's an inveterate liar, rivaled only by Trump, and he doubles down on those inveterate lies. He doesn't apologize to say, guys, I screwed up on that, I got it wrong, I need to be more careful with my statements. He doesn't do any of that, but he's also a different person when he's online typing with his THMS versus when he's on camera. He thinks he has all the swag and confidence when he's texting. But when he's on camera, he's painfully awkward and tries to ask AFF a more humble disposition. But it's like, man, you're the same person, and there's no alignment between what you say you do and what you actually do. But let's get into it. The Washington Post had a really interesting editorial just recently. The editorial board did a spotlight, a Musk conflict of interest. This is from 8 days ago, ahead of a Friday visit to the Pentagon. Elon Musk, along with Donald Trump and Defense Secretary Pete Heath, rushed to deny news reports that the billionaire businessman would receive a top-secret briefing on U.S. plans for hypothetical war. U.S. plans for a hypothetical war with China. They probably texted them to Jeffrey Goldberg instead. They first downplayed, then downgraded the meeting, perhaps because it would look obviously bad to share commercially valuable war plans with the chief executive of a major defense contractor, SpaceX, or with the CEO of Tesla, which is deeply reliant on China for manufacturing and sales. Anyone properly concerned about the risks involved could feel some relief in learning Musk would not. After all be let in on some of the U.S.'s most sensitive secrets, or so they allege. Nevertheless, the episode was a reminder of Musk's many other conflicts of interest. There's a hyperlink to this where, again, the Washington Post, has been relentless on this about how Musk has effectively been policing himself. Musk will recuse himself, Elon recuse himself, and the lack of transparency. That clouds his wide-ranging work as a special government employee overseeing the U.S. DOGE service when Musk envoys show up at agencies that he privately does business with, including NASA, or that regulate his 8 companies. Troubling questions are raised. This happened when it was revealed that the Federal Aviation Administration was considering shifting a contract for communication systems from Verizon to Musk. Starlink questions have also arisen and have not been put to rest about what Musk employees at DOGE, which stands for the Department of Government Efficiency, might do with their access to confidential database of drug approvals, given that Neuralink, Musk's brain implant company, has business before the FDA Democratic senators likewise received no answers to their questions about Musk's role in neutering the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, even though he has moved towards rebranding X as a mobile payments company, and the CFPB was designed really towards any sort of, fraudulent activity, but specifically towards companies like that. Last weekend, an outgoing Commerce Department official warned in a farewell email to colleagues that the Trump administration is poised to award rural broadband money to Starlink, quote, stranding all or part of rural America with worse internet so that we can make the world's richest man even richer is yet another in a long line of betrayals by Washington, wrote Evan Feinman, who directed the department $42.5 billion. Rural broadband program. Perhaps it's practical to use Starlink instead of more expensive traditional broadband in rural America. But Musk's deep and often veiled involvement in all facets of the administration should nevertheless prompt criticism. Over the past 2 decades, Musk and his businesses have received at least $38 billion in government contracts, loans, subsidies, and tax credits, helping him become the world's richest person in 2024 alone. Federal and local governments committed at least $6.3 billion to Musk companies. The White House contends that Musk has fully complied with the law and will recuse himself when appropriate. But officials have declined to say whether Trump signed a waiver to exempt Musk from complying with conflict of interest rules, or whether Musk has privately disclosed financial information to officials. And, by the way, I just want to say this is across the board. The notion that any president, Democrat or Republican, could sign a waiver saying, okay, this person doesn't have to comply with conflict of interest rules is insane. I'm just imagining, again, let's imagine Kamala Harris had won the election. We're dealing with the Harris administration, its vice president, it's Madam President Kamala Harris and Mark Cuban, who was a major donor and contributor, and surrogate to the Harris campaign. Imagine we learned that he was basically been given a high-level administration position, and a hypothetical president. Harris signed a waiver saying Mark Cuban didn't need to comply with conflict of interest rules. I know as a liberal how I'd feel. And Mark Cuban is probably the only billionaire that I can say that I quote-unquote like. And I'd have a huge problem with that. That would not be okay, because that's just blatant corruption and only incentivizes a further corruption. Any rich person, really any person, period, no matter what their socioeconomic status is, should be forced to comply with ruthless, relentless conflicts of interest rules. And the more rich and the more powerful you are, the more important that is. And the idea that there's even a possible that the president has an option, Democrat or Republican, Biden or Trump, to sign a waiver to say, this person doesn't have to comply with the rules. That's insane. That's insane. Then probably something that maybe Congress should, outlaw. Maybe, I don't know. There you have it. Elon Musk had a really bad why yesterday. Not only did he lose that election that he sunk $25 million in, as well as, his own personal reputation, but he got grilled by Jessica Teroff. And I imagine that is not a very pleasant place to be. So in the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.